Hello and welcome to your very first DTF podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network in the year of our Lord 2025. Happy New Year, everybody. Hope 2024 treated you well. I hope New Year's Eve treated you a little bit better than it did John Fanta. He didn't have the greatest experience ever in Omaha. Not a bad one, not a great one, just kind of
fun game.
Fun game.
What game.
Fun game, middle of the road. It is what it is. Obviously, my name is Rob Dosser. I'm here with Terrence Oglesby. I'm here with John Fanta. This is the DTF podcast, and we'll be here for about the next hour with you guys, breaking down the world of college basketball. We got to get into this conversation about Jim Larrañaga and what has kind of happened to the ACC. And I do want to get into some non-conference winners and losers with these guys. And we're going to talk about Kansas. I think it's time to have a little bit of a Kansas panic, guys. But before we do that, T.O., how was your new year? How are you feeling? And how excited are you for the rest of this college basketball season?
I'm feeling great. I feel the 5 pounds I put on worth of Christmas ham in Sweden. Feel it. So I'm about to get back on it today. As soon as we're done here, I'm going to the gym. Secondly, I did Notre Dame at Georgia Tech, New Year's Eve. That was fun, kind of perfect because it was at 2:30. Then I went and had a nice dinner with some family friends down in Atlanta. Fell asleep at 11. Perfect for me. I don't need to get past New Year's. It's nonsense. I'm too old for this. I had a buddy of mine. He was like, hey, man, or actually it was the guy's parents that I had dinner with. He's like, hey, just stay down here with us. Your family's still in Sweden. Stay down here with us. You can crash on my couch. I said, I'm damn near 37 years old. And from what I've heard from friends, alimony is expensive. I'm not doing that because I know that what my single friends are still doing, and I want no portion of this. So I went home. I fell asleep. I watched a little bit of football, but fell asleep at 11. It was nice. To me, that's perfect. Good dinner, sleep at 11.
I was in Omaha. Watched a 1-point game between Creighton and St. John's that we had on Peacock, and Ryan Kalkbrenner, I know it's taken him more years. I get that, folks, but I had a lot of people in my mentions, and I'm here to say, quiet down, because he's the only Big East men's player. He's the only Big East player in the history of the league to say that he scored 2,000 points, has recorded 1,000 rebounds, and 500 blocks in league games only. He is incredible, and here's something that people do not know. Is that Kalkbrenner is about to become the second all-time leading scorer in Creighton history. For a guy who doesn't shoot a lot of threes, mostly a 2-point shooter, has dealt with injuries. Remember, missed 6 games with mono? Had a very bad bout with that. And he's going to finish second all-time behind Doug McDermott. Not Greg McDermott, behind Doug McDermott in Creighton history. So terrific win for Creighton. They now go to Marquette. Very critical game for them against Marquette on Friday night. And I'll tell you what, guys, Creighton is a bubbly team. I still think in my heart of hearts that even if it's in Dayton, I think that they are going to be the 4th. I think the Big East will get 4 teams. I think they are the 4th. I know on After Dark they were talking about Xavier. I think Creighton, although, and this is a great segue, their one quality non-conference win, how much value is that going to actually have? And that was over Kansas.
Hey, quick question. What are people saying about Ryan Kalkbrenner?
So I put out this stat about him, and if you look at my replies, it's about 35 replies saying, how many years? He's just big. UConn fans, he's just tall. Tall.
Tell him to shut up. Tell them all to shut up.
Guys,
that's hilarious. He's just tall. Look what that did for Zach Edey, by the way, who was just tall and who was, quote unquote, the worst draft pick in the first round. That's
Rob, can you believe this? Rob? He's never fouled out.
I 100% can believe that. He doesn't foul. They're so smart in the way that they use him. They play him in that deep drop and they say, look, just stand in front of people, put your hands up in the air, be 7'2", be long, and go straight up. And that's all he does.
You know what helps?
Simple game, Fanta. It's a simple game out there.
So you know what helps with that? And I was watching this the other day because, like, to be able to, he has really, this is stupid of me to even, I just watch it too much. Like, his shoulders have a lot of flexion. So when he puts his arms up, they actually bend backwards. So like, not only is he straight up, so when he gets hit, he like a lot of people when they get hit, they fall their hands down because like obviously you get hit in the belly, your hands go down. His arms are already back, so they just go back to straight up, and it's like he just doesn't foul because of that. He has really flexible shoulders.
Yeah,
Welcome to the DTF podcast in the year of our Lord 2025. Evaluating the flexion of a man's scapular region.
There you have it, guys. For the Creighton fans,
you're welcome.
That want to yell at us. T.O. was saying that Ryan Kalkbrenner is not a good defensive player.
That's not what I said.
He's tall with flexible shoulders. He's not a good basketball player. He's just tall with flexible shoulders.
The only reason I thought about that is because when I was playing in Hansborough was playing, they would go play at Duke or Duke would go play at Carolina because that's the only time they could ever beat them. Their emphasis was you can't just put your hands up because he's going to get to the free throw line. You had to bend your wrist back. And so like when you bend your wrist backwards, it would kind of force the same kind of thing. Does that make sense?
I like that you got a subtle Duke dig in there.
It does. So the things that you learn on this podcast is that
flexible shoulders help.
Yeah, Ryan Kalkbrenner's got flexible shoulders. It's kind of like we talked. Who's the center last year? The big white guy that transferred from Notre Dame at Duke. They're the transfer from Northwestern.
Ryan Young.
Yeah, Ryan Young. You also learned that Ryan Young is taller than he looks because he has no neck. These are the things that you.
I didn't say. You said that one right.
I did say that. That's why you come to the DTF podcast. This is the kind of analysis that you can only get here on this this here show.
He was so funny to watch play because he would turn around. He would just be like,
"Yeah, no neck." He couldn't. He was one of those guys.
He had no flexion. He had no flexion.
He can't turn his neck, so he has to turn his whole body when he wants. You know how like when you sleep wrong and your neck hurts and you have to turn your whole body if you want to look over here, or if like you're driving, you have to turn your whole body instead of just turning your head.
That's what happens when you get in your mid-30s, John. Be ready.
You don't know about that yet, fam. You'll learn. You'll learn about that.
The good news for Ryan Young is he wouldn't show up after New Year's Eve with any sort of mark. You know what I learned from T. Oglesby 22 on New Year's night? Is that Louisville made a statement.
Yeah, they did.
He tells us. What happened? What'd they do?
And they beat Carolina. Beat the brakes off of them. They didn't beat the brakes off of them. It was actually a really good game. But my God, like I feel like we've kind of gotten in this trap because Rob and I went to the Bahamas. Jeff's been hating on them. Like we need to keep in mind Louisville last year. I think anything has an improved. Like we kind of got in a trap of like Louisville's ready to hate. I mean, Goodman's ready to hate on Louisville. Louisville fans are just in. Like the place was buzzing yesterday. They got a top 10 player in their class committed at like the under 6 or under 8 media. Like there's a lot of positive going on. They've been injury riddled too. And here they are. What was it? 9-5 and 2-1 in the league. Like if I'm a Louisville fan, I am so relieved that the guys are competing and playing the way they are. Like, is it beautiful? No, they haven't shot the ball worth a crap, but man, you got to win games. And anytime Carolina plays anywhere, it's an event. And they were able to get one
up Saturday. You got to back. You got to go to Virginia, win that game, and then you get Clemson on Tuesday night. I mean, this is the window's open to because Clemson Tuesday night. If you've beaten Virginia, all of a sudden that place will really have some juice Tuesday night.
Yeah, it had juice. It had juice last night. It was sold out. Like it was juicy.
Fans.
It was
They're
juicy.
Fans. Those Louisville fans are absolutely fantastic for what they put up with.
Yeah, subtle plug. I'll be on the call for Louisville at Virginia.
You know what is really frustrating with me about the discourse when it comes to Louisville is that I feel like people just kind of gloss over the fact that they are down. They've been down for most of the season, 2 starters and their 6th man in Corin Johnson, right? They just got Kadir Traore back, and he played. How many minutes did he play last night?
Not many.
Yeah, he played 9. He's played 14 total minutes since he came back. He was a starter for them in both the games that we saw in the Bahamas, T.O. Like, they thought that he was going to be a real impact player. Cason Pryor, who's their most talented guy, hasn't played. And then they have, like, and shout out to Mike LaTulip, who's been really, really good for us this year. But he's
a stud, by the way. Good pick up there. I think LaTulip's really good.
He knows his stuff. And the point he made last night is that Louisville doesn't really have a guy that can be a guard in the backcourt with him that can move Chucky Hepburn off the ball because Corin Johnson's not there. Like, Corin Johnson was the breakdown guy. Johnson was a dude that could go get you one if everything else breaks down within an offense. Like that's kind of what he does. That's who he is. That's what you expect out of these dudes out of Seattle, and not having him has been a big loss. I do want to
question from a listener.
what do we got?
His name's Jeffrey with a G, and he said, "Could you ask the host of the pod about a 13-year-old from the Bahamas?"
Hey, but by the way, I think every school in every school in the SEC is going to be after that 14-year-old kid. By the way, he only played like 30 seconds.
Yeah,
but
he was on the court. Like he was there to
only played
warm
like
up.
30 seconds. So, like, hey, look, here's another thing. I did listen last night. I was watching with two. I'm not sure I agree with that, because what Chucky had at Wisconsin, I would argue Chucky's been so good this year because the ball's in his hands. Dude, my mother will call me 75 times a day. It's unbelievable.
What a random drop in.
I know. It's unreal. So here's the thing. I think Chucky Hepburn's better with the ball in his hands. I think he's been spectacular this year. Like, I don't think that you need another ball handler. He is your ball handler. He's the one who needs to kind of get things going. Mm-hmm. So, like, I do think they would like to have somebody else. I think Traore could bring the ball up if you need to sit Chucky for 5 minutes. But Chuck, like, don't take the ball out of Chucky's hands, man. That dude's unbelievable when it comes to pick and roll, reads, hanging on to the basket. Doesn't turn it over all that much. I don't know how many he had last night, but you get my point. Like, you feel so okay and comfortable as a coach, as a fan base when Chucky has a ball. I don't want somebody else touching the ball unless they're shooting it, because I get – guys – Terrence Edwards is a good player. Fat's a good player. He makes me nervous when he dribbles more than 3 or 4 times.
Yep.
He makes me freaking nervous. Give that ball to Hepburn and get out of the way, or set a ball screen or something. I thought he's been awesome.
Hey, since we're on the topic here, since we're talking about this game, one of the things I have at the end of the pod is the team with the most to prove over the course of the next 2 months is a question I was going to ask you guys, and I'm just going to get into it now. I had North Carolina as the team with the most to prove for a couple of different reasons. But for me, it's more.
Rob.
Rob.
Else. Rob. Rob. We didn't get any of that.
I'm back. The team with the most to prove over the course of the next 2 months is something that I had at the I was scheduling out for the end of the show, but I figure we'll just get into it now since we're on the topic, right? And the bigger question is kind of like Hubert Davis and where you stand. And I know they talked about this a little bit last night. And T.O., I'll go to you first, and Finn, I want your opinion on this as well. They were disappointing in 21-22 and made a run to the national championship game, right? Heading into 22-23 as the number 1 team in the country, go 20-13 overall, disappointing year, right? In 23-24, no real expectations, come out, end up being a top 5 team in America, number 1 seed, make to the Sweet 16. This year, it was kind of like the middle of the road, right? No one really thought that they were going to be a ACC championship contender, and they have not looked like an ACC championship contender so far this year. So, like, I don't know where to go on Hubert right here. Like, how have you been impressed with his tenure? Is this something where you think it's satisfactory for North Carolina to kind of be up and down like this?
They were in the preseason poll. They were projected to be 2nd behind Duke.
Yeah. Did anyone have them winning it?
11 people had first place votes. This is a media day, obviously. Some people don't know what the hell they're doing. They just happen to be there. So the 11 people had first place votes for North Carolina, because you bring RJ back. You have the fastest backcourt of coaches. We'll see how that works out. Just before I address Hubert, we'll address the team. Louisville just threw the ball over the top yesterday. You couldn't switch. Like, they tried to switch, and then they would just go and stand near the rim and just throw it up there. And then Hadley would get it, or James Scott would get it, or whoever, Anselm Ebay would get it. It was too easy. And like we've kind of said before, like, that size discrepancy is so difficult. And if you're not super flying around on the floor there and really aware of what the other team's doing, size matters, dude. Like, in the college basketball, size matters. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing that, the answer is not necessarily there. As far as things to prove, like, we kind of know what North Carolina is right now, and we know what they're going to be in the future, just simply because, like, we've already seen it against high-level competition. We've seen what they're capable of. We've seen where their weaknesses are. So as far as enough to prove, like, they're just going to have to be on the right side of lucky in order to make the tournament this year. And, with a win at a loss at Louisville, I don't think by the end of the year is going to be a terrible loss. But at the same time, like, they're going to have to be on the right side of happy a lot more. And what I mean by that is they're going to have to hit a lot of threes. They're going to have to score a lot of points. Ian Jackson has been awesome to watch. I thought he was great yesterday. I've kind of been on the fence on him. I thought yesterday he was great. Over the 2 games prior to that, he was great. I'm no longer on the fence. He is very good. It's just I don't know where the answers are, and there has to be some additions in the front court. As far as Hubert's concerned, he's never won less than 20 games, even in their down year where they didn't make the tournament. He made it to a national championship game. What are you going to do? There's a lot of people, and Carolina fans are fickle. They feel like they need to win 30 games every year. I get that. How do you get rid of? I don't know how you do it. This is just a matter of
less getting rid of him.
This is a wake up call to Hubert if he wants to keep this job. That's a big if. If he wants to keep doing what he's doing, this is a wake up call for him to, like, hey, I'm going to have to change how I approach recruiting transfers. I'm going to have to be a little bit more bendable as far as paying these guys. And the North Carolina name by itself is no longer enough, just because the money coming from other places is so substantial. Mm-hmm. I don't think I think if Hubert wants to stay, he can stay. I'm not on the fire Hubert train at all.
I'm not saying fire Hubert
at all.
Like, let's put this. How do you view his tenure so far, and kind of put it into context more than like, we need to start getting on the fire Hubert Davis on the hot seat bandwagon?
No, roller coaster ride. Mm-hmm. Inconsistent. Some real positives. Making a national championship game, obviously huge. But look at that season itself. That season entering the tournament had been, up and down, and some concerns, and never able to really be consistent.
And they were an 8-9. They played in the 8-9 game in that year.
They sure did. As for last night, like, that's not a bad loss. Louisville, no. Look at the net. They're 50th. I mean, they're 50 in the net. They're not dead either. And Carolina doesn't have any bad losses. They don't. I've been called a Carolina hater, critic, whatever you want to say. I tell it like it is. North Carolina doesn't have a good front court. And it's hard to believe that I say that about a blue blood. And it's because the personnel is just not in a place where it's strong enough. And this has been a recurring issue throughout the season. They're also a team within a game that you don't know what you're getting from one segment to another. So, and no Seth Trimble, obviously that's tough, right? He's a really talented player. But they have 6 losses. All of them are in Q1. I give them credit for playing 8 quad 1 games to this point. In fact, guys, from my scanning, North Carolina has played the most quadrant 1 games of any team in the country. That is the truth. I just went through it all. And of high majors, because, a bye game team that's a low major might have played more. Carolina has by far, nobody's played, I think only one team's played 7. They've played 8. So, there's time. And could they win 7 of 8 in this version of the ACC? Yes, and it also might take that to make sure that they're in the NCAA tournament. I'll be critical when they no-show on the road somewhere and take a quad 3 loss. Because then when you take a loss like that, that's where coaching, that's where all these issues can really arise. Losing at Louisville, not a bad loss. It's a loss. It's a game that you were in late. Louisville's a good basketball team. They've been inconsistent, but they're under a first-year head coach, and they've been very injured. But to me, it's not hot seat Hubert. It's okay, Hubert. In your next offseason, you've got to build this out better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
How about Cam? Cam goes quality losers at UNC. North Carolina is supposed to win. Also true.
Quality losers at UNC.
Also true. Yeah. North Carolina is supposed to win. Also true. But right. to say that there's some voices that are pretty loud about Hubert right now in the Carolinas. Having lived in the Carolinas, people are not happy. However, it's just not time. It's just not time. I think there's an adaptation process that needs to take place in the offseason. And if he wants to continue doing it, he has the job next year. It's up to him.
I think the way that I would phrase it is that the consistency level has not been up to North Carolina's standards. And despite that, he has enough results that have been good enough that you shouldn't even be in the realm of a conversation about firing him at this point.
They could very easily, you look up in a couple of weeks and they're 15-6.
Yeah.
Look at they're playing at Notre Dame. Notre Dame has some real problems. Marcus Burton's been hurt, hadn't played in a long time. They're not going to be. You want to talk about a team with not a lot of size? Notre Dame fits that. They could win SMU at home. SMU's better than people realize, but they could win at home. At NC State, Cal at home, Stanford at home, Wake Forest away. That'll be a big one, but it's a winnable game. And then Boston College at home.
Yeah, I think they'll reel off 7 in a row. And you reel off 7 in a row.
Then all of a sudden you're 15-6, and it's like
very different conversation.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think there's nothing to panic about.
Yep. All right. Is there anything to panic about with Kansas at this point? The headline of this podcast is Kansas Panic. Kansas has now lost 3 out of 5. They got beat at home in the fog by a West Virginia team that had a flight delayed for 8 hours because it blew their charter blew a tire landing in Morgantown. They didn't arrive in Lawrence until 2 a.m. on New Year's Eve for a game that tipped off at noon local time. They were down Tucker DeVries and Amani Hansberry, 2 of their top 3 scorers, and they were up 38-20 with 18 minutes left in that game and held on to win, thanks in very large part to Javon Small, who's been one of the most underrated transfers in college basketball this year. Fanta, I'm worried, man. This is a team that doesn't shoot the ball well. They don't space the floor well enough. They don't the pieces that they added don't seem to necessarily fit. They don't get to the free throw line. I don't think that this is a roster that is constructed. I love all the individual pieces. Tio, we talk about pieces fitting. I don't think that they fit all that well on this team and on this roster. I don't know how it works in a league as good as a Big 12 Fanta. I have a hard time seeing them find a way to turn this around to the point where they are a contender with the likes of Iowa State and Houston in that conference.
This team came into the year as preseason number 1 and as a team that we thought would have a season of redemption. It's been more of the same, if not worse. Kansas is not a national championship caliber team. They're not a Final Four caliber team. They're not an Elite 8 caliber team. Could they win a tournament game or 2? Sure. But relative to the expectations entering the year, this team has been a big disappointment. They really have been. If Bill Self could do it over, I don't think he would have taken Hunter Dickinson. Hunter is a talented player. But defensively, there's not a lot there. Defensively, this Kansas team is not gritty. They're not gutsy. They're not tough. They're not in you. They don't make you do different things. They don't alter your strategy with how they defend. Offensively, they have some talent, but they can't shoot the basketball. And Bill Self's system is predicated, like a lot of systems in the country, on shot making, on making threes, on getting open looks and making them. You went 4 for 16 against West Virginia. 4 for 16. You got to the free throw line 21 times to their 6. They're down 2 starters, and you lost that game? You lost that game?
First time West Virginia's ever won at Fog Island Fieldhouse, I believe, correct?
That's a really tough loss. Here's the other thing. They don't have a bench. Their bench is not good enough. Flory Badunga, he had 8 and 11 in this game. He helped them. 17 minutes. Other than that, there's nothing there.
See, I disagree there. I like Flory.
No. I do too. They don't have anybody after him.
Yeah, okay. I understood. I misunderstood your point there.
They got 6 guys.
Yeah.
And KJ Adams seems broken. I mean, I don't know what's going on, but he only made one shot in this game. You know, I can't figure him out from game to game. It seems like when he's gone up against high majors, like 4 points against Creighton, 6 points against NC State, look at him, guys. He was averaging 13, 14 points per game last year. He was in double figures the year before. What's going on with KJ Adams?
I don't think you want him to be a scorer. Like, my bigger issue, and I'm curious both of you guys' opinion on this, right? Like, I just don't think that they made the right additions in the portal this year. You know, I understand what you're saying about Hunter Fanta, and like, I don't totally disagree. I would tend to lean towards like the production kind of outweighs some of the concerns that you have otherwise, but like AJ Store's the wrong fit for this. Like, they're paying him. Yeah, I think they're paying him 2 commas, man.
But here's the other thing. The one other problem, and this is my last thought, is if you are right now, a team defensively can say, DeJuan Harris, go ahead and shoot the ball.
Yes.
It's to say, but here's the problem. They can do the same thing with Hunter if he gets it on the perimeter. They can do the same thing with KJ.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is who's going to be that guy that lights that spark. Like, Zeke Mayo was 2 for 7 yesterday. Got to the free throw line, sure, but like, shot making's contagious, and 4 for 16. Like, as far as analytics go and all that stuff, it's really not enough. It's a tough one. It's a tough.
It's not just the percentages either, guys. Like, it's the threat to make the shot. Like, I've said this over and over on the show. It's not so much the threes that you make. It is the threat of the three that creates the space. That is the real difference maker when it comes to running offense in college basketball, right? And the problem is your point guard, DeJuan Harris, is a guy that you don't necessarily have to guard on the perimeter, right? Like, if he's shooting threes, you live with that. Same thing with KJ Adams. If he's taking jumpers, you'll live with that. Okay. That you let that beat you. If Hunter Dickinson is a guy shooting a 3, you live with that because he's one of the best players in the country at sealing and creating angles and scoring in and around the paint. AJ Storr is not a shooter. Like, he's a slasher and a scorer, but he's not a shooter, and he's the wrong fit. He's like a bad shot taker. He's the wrong fit for what Kansas wants. And you put all of that together, there's no one that scares you from 3 on this team. Not when Rylan Griffin isn't shooting all that well. Like, do you want David Coit, who like was a really good player at Northern Illinois and in an ideal world would be awesome for like 12 minutes off the bench for this Kansas team? He's a starter, right? Like, he's playing starters minutes. He's the most dangerous. They got him in the floor on the court in crunch time. Like, that's not what you want.
I don't think he's Kansas.
And look how much he's playing. Because AJ Storr ain't it. Bill Self can't get him going. Rylan Griffin isn't shooting the ball all that well. They can't get him going. You need somebody out there with Zeke Mayo and with DeJuan Harris. Like, it just, I don't know, man. I'm very, very concerned about where this Kansas team goes. Like, big picture, they're going to win enough games. They're going to dance. They're going to be like a top 5 seed because Bill Self's really good at what he does, and they're still talent. But I think that they are like if they get to the second weekend, I think it's a good season for them. Am I going too far on that, T.O.?
It's a great, if they get there, I think that's where this team needs to be, which is nuts considering before the season we were like number 1 or number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 or number 2. But can we get to West Virginia and the job DeVries has done there? Holy smokes. I didn't see this coming, guys. I really didn't. I like the pieces. I like the roster. I thought, well, they'll finish bottom half, but closer to the midpoint of the Big 12. They'll be fine. They'll compete. They're tough. Dude, they're 10-2.
Mm-hmm.
And a win at Kansas. I mean, like, it feels weird to like bash Kansas and then say it's a good win to win at Kansas, but you get what we're saying. You get what we're saying. Like, they've done a really nice job there. Really nice. Javon Small, you ain't kidding. He has been a difference maker in the biggest sort of order. Like, fun team to watch. I was shocked at how good they were whenever we watched them at Battle for Atlantis. I was like, oh man, they're cooking with something, and they're pretty balanced. It's a really good team, man. Really good team. DeVries has done a great job in year 1. Burn all the couches in Morgantown. Like, it's a fun team to watch, and you know, I'm not going to say appointment television. We're not quite there, but like, still really good.
Yeah, it's go ahead, Fanta.
They should be ranked on Monday, no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
They're 10-2. This is a great story. And by the way, it feels like it's been a little bit. I am excited. To see Morgantown back as an atmosphere in this sport.
Yes.
as the season goes along. That place is a gem when they're good, and it is really, really loud. Like it's people forget this. That's been such a great atmosphere that College Game Day of ESPN, which doesn't diversify a ton, has gone there when they've been good. Like they go there often because of how good it is. West Virginia is it's a proud brand, terrific tradition. You know, they just get Rich Rod back on the football side. There's good vibes over there right now in Morgantown. What stands out to me about DeVries? You know what it is, guys, and like this is the Ben McCullum theory now. You know, going forward, that if you're an AD and you're looking to hire, that if you find the guy who's won at the mid-major level, plays the right way, plays with depth, plays with balance, like don't get stupid on it. It's staring you in the face, and it does translate. Why? Because it's freaking basketball. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's playing the right way. It's valuing your players. It's developing culture, and it's defending. You know, in this game, West Virginia had to get stops. You hold Kansas to 61 inside their building, in which a third of their points came from the free throw line. Think about that. Like, they only scored 40 points from the field. That's kind of amazing. And I'm in agreement with you, T.O. You know, what's a true testament to whether or not you have balance? When you're down 2 starters, how do you play?
Yeah.
Javon Small, Rob, has been phenomenal. I mean, I like the kid a lot before. I just think he's been a great fit for this team.
He's in the All-American conversation. Like, he's legitimately in that conversation right now with what he did against Gonzaga in that win. What
Kim
he did
Palmer has
against
him
Arizona
8th. Kim Palmer has him the 8th best player in the country.
Yeah.
That.
By the way, I thought Eduardo Andre played a big role in this game
Mhm.
in the win over Kansas. 15-6, 3 assists as well. They got some three-point shot making from Jonathan Powell, you know, who's given them some sparks here, and it's been in double figures 3 of his last 4 games. But love it. I mean, Darren DeVries, honestly, it's a sleeper here, depending on how the rest of the season goes, but he's on National Coach of the Year radar.
Yeah.
How about the fact that Kansas tried like 21 free throws to 6? They tried. And if that game's on a neutral floor, and I'm not even freaking kidding about this. I'm so freaking serious. Freaking new year, new me, not cussing. So freaking serious. You have to beat Kansas by 15 points in order to beat them by 1 point. Neutral site, West Virginia wins by 15.
Fair enough.
Just saying, like, that's how good you have to be.
Fair enough. Listen, there was a big coaching change last week before we went to Christmas, or right after we went to Christmas, that we need to talk about, that we have not talked about yet on this podcast. That is Jim Larrañaga. He retired, and the ACC has gone over a massive, massive change over the course of the last 8 years. We are going to talk about that in just a minute after a word from our
Commercial break.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code. And we're back. Rob Doster, John Fanta, Terrence Oglesby, the DTF podcast. T.O., I'm going to go to you first on this one. You're the resident ACC guy. And I remember you saw this one coming. This was not the biggest surprise in the world to some of us. So Jim Larrañaga retiring since 2016. This is the coaching talent that the ACC has lost. Rick Pitino, Buzz Williams, Jim Boeheim, Coach K, Roy Williams, Tony Bennett, Mike Bray, and Jim Larrañaga. And again, is it Lena Oglesby calling you again, T.O.?
Yeah, Do Not Disturb has been turned on.
Well, she needs to make sure that she should be watching the Field of 68. You got to get her on.
It is hurtful that she just doesn't care. She doesn't care.
Unbelievable.
Anyway, go ahead.
The Rick Pitino, Buzz Williams, Jim Boeheim, Coach K, Roy Williams, Tony Bennett, Mike Bray, Jim Larrañaga have all left the conference in the last 8 years.
Did you say Buzz Williams?
Buzz Williams, yeah. Went from Virginia Tech to Texas A&M in 2019.
Oh, I thought we were talking about people who retired and left.
No,
or I thought
just people that have left the league.
I was just like
in a period of time.
I love how you put Buzz in there with Roy Williams, Coach K, Boeheim.
Yeah,
Buzz is a great coach. Buzz is a great coach.
Huh? A guy that loves to take his shirt off, and then you got Buzz Williams there as well.
Sure.
One, if you have any, I know you got some thoughts on Jim Larrañaga, so I'll open up the floor here to allow you to speak on it. But I also want to talk about like just what this means for the ACC as a whole. Like part of the reason the ACC has been down a little bit, like you can't lose that much coaching talent.
100%.
Stay at the same level that you've been at in the past. So go ahead.
However, you can't. You want to talk about speaking out of both sides of your mouth? The hypocrisy that came out of Jay Larrañaga's mouth is insane. Like you've got to be kidding me. Well, I can't figure out this NIL. Well, the NIL, you figured out the NIL good enough to make a Final Four run. Like you were the one that we were relying on to be like, well, Jim Larrañaga figured it out. Why can't you figure it out? Like what are you talking about? Your team's trash and you wanted to get out. You were disinterested. That's fine. Ruiz money dried up. The dude's gotten all kinds of bankruptcy problems down in Miami. The money dried up. So guys aren't happy and you weren't able to manage that. Your team wasn't good, so you left. And he's had a great career. Whatever. Don't say you couldn't handle it because you handled it. Just you didn't handle it this year. So move forward, get the hell out of the way. The old guard's out, and everything's starting to turn in college basketball. Not just coaches, but media too. It's starting to turn a little bit. The older people are starting to move out, and it's happening. Whether people want to know it or not, it's happening. It's happening. That all being said, get out of the way and let somebody else who's willing to embrace this change be excited for that person. Don't leave and start bashing everything on your way out, which is what some of the media people are doing on their way out too. They're just bashing everybody else while they're hanging on desperately for their job. Like you're talking about like Larrañaga, get out of the way. Let somebody else go down there. You know who'd be great down in Miami? Not even kidding. Will Wade would be great at Miami. You know who'd be great at Florida State? Will Wade would be great at Florida State. Chris Caputo would be good at Miami. There's guys that are willing to accept this change and play ball with the way college basketball is being played now. If you aren't going to do it, get the hell out of the way and thank you for doing so.
Yes.
That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at right now. Thank you for getting out of the way because we're tired of the belly aching and the bitching. This is what it is. It's not going to get fixed. Go ahead and adapt to the rules that we're being given.
Yeah.
Get out of the way. Get out of the way.
You're not putting Pandora back in her box. Like this is where we are right now.
You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube at this point.
Oh, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Exactly right. And
how many more sayings
stop
do you
with
think
the
we can fit in
nonsense?
here?
Stop with the nonsense of like, well, I'm exhausted. Yeah, well, we're exhausted of the belly aching and the bitching. I already broke my New Year's resolution of not cussing. Stop with the belly aching and the bitching. Get out of the way. That's where I'm at with this.
So there's two separate points here. Number one is Jim Larrañaga had an amazing career. When you could take two schools to their first ever Final Four, and he does it with George Mason and Miami, and their only Final Four in school history.
Sure.
That's an amazing career. That being said, I don't like my dad always told me, finish the job you started.
100%.
I don't like the midseason departure. I
don't like the 2 weeks before the regular season departure. I don't like what Tony Bennett did. Sorry.
I don't like that either. Although I actually could deal with that more than this. Because I think you owe it to your kids to finish out the season. These are two separate points. You could both say he had an amazing career and that I would have liked to see him finish out the season. Now, it's over now. It's done with. Miami stinks. The coach knows it. He doesn't have the desire to get them back on track. And so it's over. It is what it is. And now Miami's a good job. In the ACC, there's a lot of pros. They have money. All right. It's the beach. It's South Florida. It's nice and warm down there.
They pay.
Yeah. I mean, Larrañaga said at the Final Four 2 years ago, he goes, I get to walk around campus, have some ice cream, and look at our cheerleaders. And, he said that at his press conference. And everybody in the room laughed because he was an older gentleman. And we've all had that grandpa who might be a little bit creepy, but he, at the end of the day, he's a very nice guy. Like, I just don't understand. You get through Christmas. And and then you do that. I think you got to finish out the season. But it's a good job. I just don't want the complaining. I know a coach who said to me in the last 2 weeks that during Christmas he went west and he was hanging out and he turned the laptop off and he shut it for about 3 days. And he said to me, I then see that Jim retires and I'm in the middle of, I told my staff, log off. Everybody off. Told my players, just put your phone away, guys. Put your phone in the dresser, put it away. Just spend time with your family. And he said, maybe that is how I manage this. So I'm twisting it here for a moment. Maybe I'm plugging a little bit. You could get so into the chaos that your brain just becomes, wired in a way it shouldn't be. You have to give and take in this climate. You're not going to be able to change the chaos. And this coach said to me, I'm done going to Peach Jam for 3 days and just sitting courtside like this. Because what's the point? He's like, at the end of the day, the kid wants to know, how much am I willing to pay? This coach said, I can get a whole lot more done if I go around town, go to my dinners that I need to go to, and raise NIL. So that if my staff's out there or if I'm recruiting the kid, I could speak to him and say, look, I value the heck out of our relationship. I want to be your coach. I would love to have you at my school. I know what your question is ultimately. Guess what? I've been working on that. And here's how I've been balancing it. This is why you haven't seen me out there all the time for you. It's a balance here. Coaches have to learn how to navigate it. Complaining does you no good. Do I think the format of the sport needs to change? Yes. But you could say that without saying that, without whining and crying about why this stinks. Jim Larinaga, the very reason that you're complaining about why you got out is why you were in the Final Four.
Yes. They were the first ones to do it. They were the reason why we all said you got to be able to figure out and do it the way that Miami does it, right? They were the prototype. Nigel Pack was the first guy that everybody knew exactly how much he was making. Remember, we called him on this show Mr. 400,000, Mr. 400K, right? Because of all the Life Wallet stuff. So, personally, and maybe I'm on an island here, given how bad they were, like, I actually don't mind him stepping away because I think that that's probably in the best interest of the kids. Like, if he's like, we suck, I'm 75, I don't like doing this anymore, my heart's not into it, I'm gone. None of these guys, no matter what they're making, right? Let's just say that they're making a couple $100,000, right? Good money for a college kid. That ain't life-changing money. That's not you're going to be set for life money. That is like, okay, you're going to have a decent down payment on a nice starter home kind of money right now, right? Like, all of these guys are going to have to find careers for a long time after they're done playing college basketball. And the best way to do that, win games in college and show what you can do, right? Show that you can contribute to a culture of winning somewhere. And none of these guys are doing that right now. And if Jim Larinaga doesn't feel like his heart is into it, then maybe the best thing for all of these kids is to be able to have a coach that actually does have their heart into it and believe that they're doing what they're doing. So I don't
just sick of the complaining.
Yeah, like, don't bitch about it, man. Like
just
we're all playing by the same rules. You know what I mean? Like,
everybody's doing the same thing.
Yes.
Everybody's doing the same thing. Quit complaining about it. Like, like, you can't fix it. The rules are done. Stop complaining and get to work. And if you don't want to work under these conditions, get out and let the next person get your opportunity that you're complaining so much about. Shut up. You're anybody at a Power 5 institution. And for explanation purposes, I always count the Big East as a Power 5 school, a Power 5 conference. Everybody's getting paid $2 million or more. Shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Play by the rules.
It's true.
Shut up.
And I do think that there's going to be a light at the end of this tunnel. I know a lot of people say no, but I think we're going to get to a point where there's either contracts or some sort of, happy medium to this. I think one big thing is, like, here's why you have to shut up. Your conference is going to tell you, the program, what they prefer you spend on your team. Because there's got to be some of that here. Like, there's just some teams that aren't treating this seriously, and they're paying for it. I mean, there's a coach who said to me in the last week, well, yeah, we could talk about the coaching. The coaching in the SEC's always been great, but you could see how much money they have with no, not always, but it had been great the past couple of years.
Yeah, sure. Past 5 or 6 years, fantastic. Absolutely.
That was the point. Not like
yep, gotcha.
It was the last 5 or 6 years. They said, but when you combine that coaching with what they're spending, you get what this has been.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So it's a money war. It's not going anywhere. Again, you can bitch and moan, but this is what it is, and we'll see. I mean, I think it's a sign of where we're at, and it's also why, like, if coaches are going to do it, like this is mid-season, and other coaches, have left off the cuff, don't be surprised when February 1 rolls around and a player says, "I'm not playing. I didn't get paid."
Well, it's not just the players that didn't get paid, and I'll talk about more, maybe not specifics, but it's some of the guys that got paid early on and decided, I'm going to hang it up now, right? It's not there's the NIL situation with there's a lot of things that the kinks need to get worked out of this. I think once you get in a place where you have contracts and it is kind of what's the right word? There is a framework here that actually makes sense beyond just, hey, we're going to have a whole bunch of fans, raise a bunch of money, and put it into this business that hopefully is going to work. Like, that's another thing. Talking about like what is happening with Leonard Hamilton and Florida State and those collectives, right? Like, look, you got to get your stuff written in a contract. If you are a player, if you're an agent that is representing a player and you are not asking for those players to get stuff written in contracts, like, you are doing it wrong. And to be clear, there are a lot of collectives that are trying their hardest to do this the right way. But at the same time, there's also collectives out there that are making these promises. And if the money dries up, then they just go bankrupt. The organization folds. So you're left holding the contract that means nothing.
It is? What's very similar to? If you have like somebody come in and renovate a bathroom or something, and then they screw your bathroom up, and then you try to sue them, they just shut the LLC down and then start another one. Like, that's what's happening. Like, here's the thing too, that I've heard that multiple schools, their collectives, if you don't play well, they'll just withhold money.
Yeah, that
has happened numerous places, and I've heard it happen with pretty fair consistency.
Well, I mean, think about it.
It's pay for play, but it's not pay for play. It's pay for good play. You can't just show up. You better win.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's get into some wrapping up some non-conference stuff here and winners and losers. I gave you guys a homework assignment. I'm guessing that Fanta did his homework. My guess is that T.O. probably did not do his homework and is going to be BSing on the fly here. TS is not but I've seen your report cards, man. Like, we know you left school after your sophomore year not to go pro. It's because you got booted for academic reasons. C's get degrees. I'm just kidding. I don't have no idea what T.O.'s probably got like 6 master's degrees over here.
I do have one.
There you go. The biggest winners from non-conference portion of the schedule. I want to start with the team first. T.O., we'll go to you first. Who was your biggest winner as a team?
Auburn. Like, we all thought they were going to be good. I thought they were going to be good, but I thought the SEC was loaded. And I think I moved them up to 6th in the preseason in the SEC. Boy, was I wrong. Holy smokes, is that team good. Auburn is by far and away the biggest winner, with the only loss at Duke, at Cameron Indoor. Outside of that, huge wins over Houston, basically in Houston. I guess it was considered a neutral. I don't know for sure, but
it was one of those like semi-home. It's technically a neutral court, but it's in Houston.
Yeah, so. Houston went over Iowa State, North Carolina, Memphis, Ohio State, Purdue. Get out of here. The only right answer is Auburn, and they've been awesome.
Mm-hmm. Fanta?
Yeah, for me, it's going to be Oregon. They're 12-1. They won the Players Era Festival, so I'm gonna take the team that won the new event. That really benefited them nationally. When they won that event, we're now talking about Oregon much more than we were in the preseason. We thought they'd be a good team. They've looked great. When they beat Alabama on that Saturday night after Thanksgiving, 83-81, and you couple that with wins over Texas A&M and San Diego State, that's why you play in that event. That was the main chunk of their non-conference season. I think the easy answer is Tennessee because of what they've done and obviously they're a huge winner. But I'm actually going to go with the Ducks because I think when you've built up the body of work that they've put together and the close games that they won in that event, to be 12-1 and as good of a contender to win the Big Ten in their first year, in a Big Ten that's a bit wide open. Looks like the Ducks could be the best team. We're going to find out more tonight. Big game out in Eugene as they host Illinois. I can't wait to watch tonight. I mean, the benefit of the new look Big Ten. Look at Oregon's next 2 games. Illinois at home, Maryland at home. A lot of fun. I'm going to go with the Ducks and what they've been able to put together.
Yeah, so I think the answer is probably Auburn, but I went a different angle because I figured one of you two guys would take them. I went Memphis for a lot of different reasons. They had maybe the toughest non-conference schedule of anybody in college basketball. They went 10-3. They just beat the brakes off Ole Miss, and this was coming in a year where Penny made a lot of changes in the offseason. Some of them came as late as like September. They ran a kid out of the program in like October. He transferred out Tyreke Smith, and he's found a way to be able to get this program to a point where you have a good run. You do what you're supposed to in the ACC, and Memphis has like a top 4 seed, and Penny has the chance to be able to make a run. And considering all of the heat that was put on him coming in, I'm happy to see it. How can you not love Penny Hardaway? Like, it's Penny Hardaway, man. I still have pennies. I still have his shoes, and we interviewed him on the show. Like, that's I don't get starstruck about a lot. That was a pretty cool thing. Vanna, go ahead.
Yeah, and PJ Haggerty and Tyrese Hunter have been phenomenal for that team, and Dane Danger has been as well. The Maui performance was amazing. Had they not lost to Ohio State in the Garden, I think one of us would have voted Kentucky.
Oh, I have them here in a little bit. Biggest winner as a player, Fanta. I'll go to you first.
Can I say this about Memphis real quick before we move on?
Please.
Like in your all's interview with him, the fact that he said, "Well, I thought I was just going to walk in and just fix it." And he's like, it took some time. He said the criticism was warranted. Like, dude, he won me over right there. He was like, criticism was warranted. I needed to figure out the culture piece. That was on me. I needed to change my ways and develop into this college coach. And then, man, I was just like, this dude, to be that level of a star at one point in your life, to be able to come back and kind of not humble yourself per se, because you still need that ego in order to be successful to that level. But
that level of self-reflection is impressive.
Yeah, exactly. It was awesome. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Player.
Biggest winner.
Jeremiah Fierce at Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
I like it.
Phenomenal.
Like
18 points per game, close to 5 assists per game, close to 4 rebounds per game. I thought the freshman was talented. I didn't think he was this good. Holy hell. I mean, he's shooting over 50% from the floor. And when I was talking with a couple of scouts who had watched Oklahoma live, I have not seen them live. I said, so what's your thought on them? They said, good team. Jeremiah Fierce makes them a great team.
Oh, yeah.
A team that can go seriously deep into March. What to get for Porter Moser, who I was the only reason why I won't pick him as my coach that's gained the most, because they're undefeated, they're one of 3 unbeaten left, is because I'm spreading the love, and I'll spread it a little bit more. But Jeremiah Fierce, you are a superstar, and I can't wait to watch you in the SEC.
If I had to pick one player that won, and here's the thing, we knew what Tennessee was, but I think the fit with Chaz Lanier,
it's a good one.
And what he's been able to do, being super duper productive, but not limiting teammates. He's just as tough as anybody else on the defensive end of the floor, and they continue to be really tough defensively. But there was a lot of expectations coming in behind Dalton Connect.
Yes.
He's actually might have been a better offensive fit with the other players than Dalton was. Dalton was spectacular. But what Chaz is good at is staying within himself and still scoring at an extremely high rate. And he hasn't limited some of these other guys on the vault. So those other guys have played better. I think Tennessee's more dangerous than they were last year. That's crazy to say. So if I had to pick one player that's not exceeded expectations, but I was kind of leery on like, how is this going to work compared? It's worked even better. So Chaz Lanier is my guy.
Yeah, I like that one, especially given the footsteps that he was stepping into. I'm going Cam Jones, man. Cam Jones, a lot of people doubted what Marquette could be because they didn't think that Cam Jones could step in and be a point guard. And he is I might be biased because he's the Field of 68 fashion correspondent. I don't care. He's been the best player in college basketball, not named Janai Broom. And he has outperformed expectations marvelously. And Marquette, as a result, looks like a team that can win the Big East regular season title and compete for whatever championship they want in the postseason. So that's been a lot of fun to watch. Coach, I'm going to go first in this one. I'm saying
I know who you're picking. I knew it.
Hope, baby.
I knew it.
Even with the loss to Ohio State, go out and look at all of these other coaches that have dealt with completely revamping rosters, starting from scratch in a new place, right? Whether it was Pat Kelsey in Louisville, John Calipari in Arkansas, all of these guys have really struggled finding a way to kind of get this thing started quickly. And that's not been the case for Pope. He's been able to find a way to beat Duke. They found a way to be able to beat Gonzaga. He's got some excitement back into the program to the point where, like, I do think it's fair to say when they were number 4 in the country, they were probably overrated for what they are as a basketball team right now in this moment. But who cares, man? He's got the excitement back. He's got that fan base back. He's got the positivity of Big Blue Nation.
You think
back.
they're overrated? Is that what I heard?
I don't think that they are the 4th best team in college basketball. When they were ranked 4th, I don't think they're the 4th best team in college basketball. But you win all those games, you deserve to be ranked. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just the way that the rankings work.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, and he's found a way to be able to, like, get this thing going quickly. And there were some doubts from that fan base when he got the job, and I think he has quieted every single one of those doubters. T.O., coach, biggest winner.
After watching Michigan play against Arkansas, and then they lost a game against Oklahoma on a neutral, I just so impressed with how Michigan's playing and how hard they're playing and the pieces and how they're fitting together. He's turned Trey Donaldson, and I'm talking about Dusty May. He's turned Trey Donaldson into a good point guard, and I think he's going to fit that league a lot better than he fit the SEC last year at Auburn. I think it's a really good fit. I've become such a Danny Wolf fan. You want to talk about a pickup? He's been like, and Dusty May not being shy about saying, we're going to go 4 or 5 ball screen with 2 7-footers, and we're just going to let Danny Wolf be great. Like, how many people are going to be flexible enough to just be like, yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that.
Yeah, we'll make it work, man.
I didn't know, guys. Yeah, I didn't know how it would work. Now, they've got 3 losses, sure. And the 3 losses, Wake Forest, Arkansas, Oklahoma, are all 92, 39, and 40 on KenPom. It's by a whopping total of 5 combined points between 3 losses. They could very easily be, 12-1, 11-2, whatever. I was a bit skeptical because I almost wondered if Dusty May was a one-hit wonder getting to the Final Four, because you look at the rest of the seasons that he had. I was curious, like, how is this really going to happen? And he's done a really nice job in Michigan. So I think he's alleviated a lot of that doubt. They're playing good ball. And to be honest with you, I just really have enjoyed watching Michigan play basketball this year. So I'm going Dusty May.
Fanta?
I am going to go with a coach of a 13-1 team. The latest coach in a string of home run hires, and that is Jared Calhoun at Utah State.
I got them later this month.
I'll tell you what.
You're going to love Mason Falslev, man. Like, he is.
Oh, I already do.
He's so much fun to watch. I'm sorry.
You've never seen him play. You are going to love him. Rob knows you don't.
I'm sorry. Like, I just get excited. I love the Mountain West, man. Every single time I watch a game and I hear you talking about the Mountain West, TO, it gets me fired up, man. You're a Mountain West guy through and through. I don't care that you live in
massive Mountain West guy. # massive Mountain West guy. How about Falslev? The fact that he couldn't throw it in the ocean last year, shooting 44%. Go Fanta. I'm sorry.
No, it's Jared Calhoun and it's Darren DeVries are the two. Chase Long's right. I mean, DeVries has done an amazing job at West Virginia. Their performance down in Atlantis. They've proven us. I mean, not wrong, but like, this has just been better than anybody could have imagined. But yeah, Mason Falslev has been great for Utah State, and you know what? I like watching them play stylistically. I think they're a lot of fun. Ian Martinez, he was at Maryland. Now in year 2 with that program, he's found the right place, the place that he can flourish best, and they defend. They're a top 30 KenPom defensive team. They don't play overly fast, but they play fast enough. They play efficiently. Top 50 offense in America as well. So, you give them credit. And here's the other thing. They didn't play some really weak schedule. Their schedule, if you look at KenPom, their non-conference strength of schedule rating is 145. There's certain teams that are like 12-1, 11-2, 11-3, 12-2. They've played a strength of schedule that's like 250, 300, 325. So I give them credit. I mean, it's so hard, guys. Like, you take over at Utah State, and Danny Sprinkle had it humming and rolling and going. And Jarrett's got to come in, but Jarrett's done a great job at pretty much everywhere he's been. He did a nice job at Youngstown State. He got them in the NIT. They won 20-plus games the last couple of years. It's not an easy job by any means. And at the D2 level of Fairmont State, he had them in a national championship game back in 2017. So I give a lot of credit to Jarrett Calhoun, and I give credit to that Utah State administration. Diana Sabau, their AD, she made a great hire there. And if you want to win at the mid-major
go to Utah
level,
State.
Utah State.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, let's do non-conference losers. Well, let's be quick with this. I'll go first. Team, biggest loser, the Kansas Jayhawks, come in as the preseason #1 team in college basketball. I had Alabama preseason #1. That doesn't really seem like a flex because they're not even #1 in their state anymore. But I have Kansas as my biggest loser for obvious reasons. Go back and listen to the show around the 20-minute mark if you want to hear more on that. TO team.
Miami, biggest loser. Those guys have no heart. They don't want to be there. And I'm not sure if it's their fault or Jim Larinagas.
Fanta?
Wake Forest.
I was battling with that, actually. Go ahead.
Yeah, they just didn't do enough for me. I thought that this was going to be a team that could be top 20 in the country, if not, top 15 at their best. And, when I look at them early, they did beat Michigan. Nice win. They got bludgeoned by Xavier. They got crushed by a Florida State team, or by a Florida team who's very good. They scored 44 points against Texas A&M. They just haven't moved the needle enough. And so for that, I was disappointed in them. The other one would be Kansas State.
Yep. Don't hate on my Wildcats, baby. We're back. We are back. We are so back, Fana. Just wait. For the player, I went with Bryce Hopkins. And the reason I went with Bryce Hopkins is because I'm not a fan of the will he here or won't he play kind of scenario that we're in right now with Bryce Hopkins. And it's make a decision, man. Like, what are you going to do? You're holding your team in limbo. We're trying to figure all this out. Like, are you injured? Shut it down. Redshirt for the season if you want to get yourself another year. If not, then let's get out there and let's play. Like, I don't think it's fair to those fans. I don't think it's fair to to his teammates. I don't think it's fair to the program. So, decide what you're going to do, Bryce. Make something happen. Pick a lane. Fanta, go ahead.
I'm going to go with Umar Ballo.
Hell yeah, that's a good one.
He's getting paid a lot of money, and it just hasn't really met expectations. And, Indiana would be on the list, too, of disappointments because the performance out in the Bahamas was just eye-opening, to say the least. So I'll go with Ballo. You got to be better here as the calendar turns to January. You've got to be a force in the Big Ten. If not now, then when? Indiana has Rutgers tonight, and Indiana better win that game at home.
I'm going with any player that has a minor injury that's sitting out so they can get paid next year. Well, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. And for some reason, we hide in a hole and we don't call them out.
Yeah, you're right.
There's a lot of them.
It's a problem.
There's another young man who's doing the same thing down south. And there's a couple of guys doing the same thing that we might have just mentioned two names ago.
Yeah.
Like, you're just sitting out to get another payday, which I understand is fiscally responsible, but hold up your end of the deal. You were paid to play this season. It's kind of where I'm at. And here's the thing we don't talk about enough, guys. Like, there's no protection for the players who don't get paid. There's no protection for these collectives when a player just decides to up and leave. Where's that protection? Employment contracts might be the way to go, so both parties are insured.
Yes, that's the way to do it. So you get a payment like every week instead of Oh, I don't know, a situation where you get a lump sum up front after you threaten to
Yeah.
transfer at the last second. Coach, biggest loser. I went with Mike Woodson. You have a roster that, in my opinion, is top 10 to top 15 in terms of talent in the country. You're currently sitting in a spot where you are outside the top 50 on KenPom. You're outside the top 65 in the net. Your best wins are not really all that impressive. I got to go bring up the schedule. I don't remember off the top of my head, but either way, with the amount of money they spent, the best wins right now: Providence, South Carolina.
South Carolina's 10-3.
Yeah, but like that's your best win. You're building everything on your non-conference resume is going to be built on a team that's going to finish in last place in the SEC. I understand that South Carolina is a good team, right? I'm not saying they're a bad team. That's their non-conference resume. Is a team that looks like they're going to finish in last in the SEC. Like that's your Indiana, man.
Fair.
You're supposed to be a team that can compete for a national champion. Like you have a roster to compete for a national championship, and that's what we're talking about here. T.O., coach, biggest loser.
Jim Larinaga.
Fanta, go ahead.
Really good question. I'm going to go with Red Autry. Really disappointing. I mean, they are now. Yeah, they've had injuries. JJ Starling, brutal, but they're 6-7 guys.
Mm-hmm.
This is Syracuse. 6-7. I mean, my God, that is just bad. They have got to look in the mirror, and I know they're bringing in Kai and Anthony, but him alone is not going to change at all. I think that the staff will be back next year with bringing in Kyan and the class that they've got coming in. But my Lord, you got to be better. You're not playing well enough because you're pretty soft defensively. I mean, I've watched them play twice. You know, when have you ever seen Syracuse 173rd in defensive efficiency in college basketball?
It's not good.
That's not Syracuse. It's not who they are. So Red, got to bounce back from this, man.
They were under Jim. Sorry, we love Jim. They were pretty poor under Jim his last 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Well, it's carried over.
Yeah. That's for sure. Listen, this has been a fun episode, guys. It's always great to catch up with both of you. I'm glad you both had good holidays. And we will be back hopefully again next Monday. We haven't talked about what our schedules are going to end up looking like, but now that we're into conference season and through the holidays, I think it'll get a little bit more regulated. Fanta is on After Dark tonight. I believe we are going at midnight tonight, Fanta, after the Oregon-Illinois game. And T.O., if you want to catch him, will be on the Louisville at Virginia on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
I believe. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
John Paul Jones Arena, where the only place in the country that you get standing ovations for getting a shot clock violation. That still has not changed.
That might be the last year of that happening.
Yeah, hopefully. Let's get some more up-tempo modern basketball in that building. Listen, this has been fun, guys. Been the DTF podcast. We will see you guys again next week. And now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM. Is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in the Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up